Coming up on Eyewitness News, a state of emergency.
But this is not going to be solved overnight. It's not going to be a day or a matter of days. It could be easily weeks.
A rush to respond to widespread damage all throughout the state will take you to the hard-hit areas then.
It's important that we all help our neighbors and be our brother's keeper.
In the dark, more than 85% of the Mountain State is without power tonight when the lights will be back on. Plus,
people are going to have what gas they have, and they're probably not going to be able to get any more.
A rush on gas. What's causing these long lines and panic at the pump?
More storms are possible tonight. The forecast is coming up.
Live from your capital city, this is Eyewitness News.
West Virginia is under a state of emergency tonight after a massive storm. Good evening, I'm Callie Cart. This is Eyewitness News. That storm and its aftermath are our top stories tonight. Here's what we know. The severe storm knocked out power to more than 680,000 customers all across West Virginia, and it could be days or even a week before the lights are back on. That storm rolled through the area with winds in excess of 75 miles per hour and heavy rain causing statewide damage. President Barack Obama and Governor Earl Ray Tomblin have declared a state of emergency, and FEMA has stepped in to help with the cleanup and to set up cooling shelters to help people cope with the scorching heat that they're experiencing without power. We do have team coverage tonight of this storm, from the rush on gas to the cooling stations to help people deal with the extreme heat. We begin though tonight with Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Rubin, who is live at the state capitol with a look at how the state is handling the widespread emergency. Leslie.
Yeah, Callie, last night's storm generated power outages across West Virginia greater than any in recent memory. Now get this, it affected 53 of the state's 55 counties, and with 100-degree heat on top of that, it is not helping matters, as Governor Earl Ray Tomblin has declared a state of emergency, and now FEMA and the National Guard are both stepping in. Now the governor says FEMA has already fulfilled requests to bring in generators for nursing homes and hospitals without power, and to bring in that much needed extra water. Now the National Guard is also stepping in. They're identifying key locations that need the help the most. But right now, officials say looking out for each other is what is going to be the biggest help. You need to check on your neighbors, the elderly especially, and get to one of the dozens of cooling centers that are set up in almost every county as crews work to restore power, a process that will take days in some places. Now also, the governor is urging people to stay off the road so that emergency responders have access to gasoline. State officials are assessing nursing homes and hospitals to determine whether evacuations are needed.
Power outages have been extensive, one of the most extensive power outages we've faced in this state. So it's going to take time. We would just urge people to stay off of the highways. We're having problems with our gas stations. The ones that are open, there are long lines out there.
But that the power crews are doing everything they can. But this is not going to be solved overnight. It's not going to be a day or a matter of days. It could be easily weeks. So we have to do and prioritize what's important: medicine, oxygen, water.
Now we have a crew surveying the damage from a helicopter right now with Governor Tomblin. We're working to get that video back for you tonight on Eyewitness News at 10 and 11. Of course, we will get a bird's eye view of the communities that were touched by this storm. Eyewitness News reporter Bob Aaron was in his community of Cross Lanes together as he found neighbors pitching in to start that cleanup process.
I only had to look off my front porch or out the back window to gauge how much damage the storm had done. But neighbors like Mark Jarrett quickly teamed up to remove downed trees like this one that landed on an on-duty deputy sheriff's house. The wind struck with stunning power Friday night.
The trees was just bending halfway down to the ground. It was just awful looking. We just assumed that there was some kind of a little tornado or something moving in. We didn't know it caused all this damage until after we came back out.
It was good to see the neighborhood pitch in after the shock of the storm wore off.
Well, for about 10 minutes, it's pretty rough.
Wind packed enough punch to rip off my neighbor's awning and send part of it through his above-ground pool.
I always wanted a job where I could work from home, but this is not what I had in mind. Like thousands of West Virginians, I faced a cleanup chore on a day when conditions were miserably hot.
The crew of people I teamed up with literally and figuratively ran out of gas around 2 and took a break after making sure one tree would not be a problem in the next storm. My Cross Lanes neighborhood is a small-scale picture of a huge cleanup and repair problem facing the state. In Cross Lanes, Bob Aaron, Eyewitness News.
Now it appears powerful winds, not a twister, did the damage in Bob Aaron's neighborhood last night. For now, reporting live in Charleston, Leslie Rubin, Eyewitness News.
All right, thanks, Leslie. And the storm blew through very quickly last night. One woman in Roane County was out there driving and says she thought she was driving through a tornado when she was in those high winds.
We see the clouds in the sky, they were going around in circles, and then the wind started blowing really hard, and the trees on both sides of the road just started falling across the road.
Now, over in Putnam County, sheriff's deputies are warning people not to leave their homes unless they have to, and they say they will enforce that rule. Take a look at the damage. The big trees outside of the county courthouse came down, causing a big mess, but luckily the building wasn't damaged. Also in Winfield, Payne's produce stand had a tree and debris come down in front of it, but they were still open today. And it was a similar story in many places all throughout the county, with damage here on Route 34 toward Hamlin. 70% of the people in Putnam County are without power because of the storm. And of course, all the damage has led to widespread power outages in West Virginia and beyond. AEP President Charles Patton says about 700,000 homes are without power all across the Mountain State. That's about 85% of the state. He says the high winds from the storm have done extensive damage to the power infrastructure. AEP crews are out in full force and are working around the clock to get the lights back on, but they say more help is needed. Patton says with the damage to surrounding states like Ohio, Illinois, and Virginia, it may take some time to get crews here to West Virginia. He says those workers will be traveling from Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma.
And we have significant damage to our system. The one question that we don't know is whether poles are broken or whether we just have wire down. That relates both to transmission and to distribution. So today, the primary objective is assessment and to begin to move outside crews into our system to help us.
Now, the power company says it's hard to estimate when the power will be back on, but they say it could be a week before power is restored to some areas. And the storm tracked over several states, leaving several states without power. At least 4 million people across 9 states and Washington, D.C. are without power tonight, and 11 people have been reported dead from the severe storm. No deaths have been reported in our area. Well, with no power, thousands of people are stuck in the middle of a heat wave with no air conditioning. Eyewitness News reporter Dan Maddox was touring some cool-off shelters set up throughout the area to help with that heat. He has the latest from Huntington.
Kelly, people have been coming in and out of the main shelter here at the Big Sandy Arena in Huntington all day. Thousands of people in this area are without power, and they're being told that's not coming back on anytime soon.
Because I don't have no way to feed my son.
Last night's storm has literally driven some people to tears. No electricity means no way to cook, no air conditioning, and frustrations are running high.
Oh my God.
2 to 7 days, you're kidding me.
As some will be without power for days, Jed Flowers is moving his grandmother out of this apartment complex and into a home with AC. This building houses the elderly, and Flowers said it got up to 90 degrees in her 9th floor apartment.
Because it was 83 when I came in, so it was starting to get a little bit warm, so we packed everything up and got her ready.
I have to do whatever I can to keep her cooled off.
Sanja Thompson doesn't have the luxury of moving her elderly mother. She herself has no power.
And no hot water to take showers. My mom, she's on oxygen and she can't use it, and no way of cooking.
The dangerous heat conditions have prompted officials to take action. Cool-off shelters have been set up around the state, and in Huntington, the main shelter is at the Big Sandy Arena.
It's been quite a scare for everybody.
Scary because the temperatures are dangerously high, and thousands of people have lost the power to cool their homes.
Yes, we've never had nothing like this before.
Now, again, they have cots set up for people to come in and spend the night, but at the very least, they're asking for people to at least come in and get cooled off a little bit. But again, they're saying that they're not going to close this shelter until all of the power in this area has been restored. Reporting in Huntington, Dan Maddox, Eyewitness News.
All right, thanks, Dan. And as he just mentioned, those types of cooling shelters are set up all throughout the area. The King Community Center on Donnelly Street in Charleston has opened up to allow people to come in and get cool and get water and some snacks. It will be closing at 7 o'clock tonight. If you're okay and have found a way to keep cool, make sure you check on your neighbors and make sure they're safe. And here are some of those cooling centers that have been set up all throughout the area. There are several here in Kanawha County, including the Charleston Civic Center and Riverside High School. Riverside is an overnight shelter, we should point out. And we should also point out that all of these shelters have power, so if you are on oxygen, you can plug in at any of these places. You can also go to New Baptist Church and Big Sandy Arena in Cabell County, and over in Putnam County, Calvary Church at the Taze Valley Fire Department and the YMCA. The Racine Fire Department and the Danville Fire Department are both being operated as cooling centers in Boone County, along with several community centers. And over in Jackson County, you can cool off at Ripley High School and Fairplain Elementary, as well as River Valley Health and Wellness in Ravenswood. Point Pleasant High School is operating a cooling shelter in Mason County. There are also several set up there in Kentucky that you can read on the screen. And we know the people who need this information the most are the ones without power, and they are, of course, not watching. So please relay this information to those folks. We also have all of this information posted on our website, WCHSTV.com, on Facebook and on Twitter, too. You can also watch our newscast live from your smartphone if you don't have power. And power isn't the only thing that's out. A lot of people are living without water tonight. That's because many of West Virginia and American Water's remote sites are without power. A spokesperson for the company says crews are working nonstop to visit the 75 remote sites that have no power. There's no word on when the water will be restored. In the meantime, they have stationed a water tanker at the South Charleston Community Center on Jefferson Road for people to get water. Now let's get a check of the weather with meteorologist Ashley Smith.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we do have more storms on the way, but they're not going to be nearly as rough as what we had last night. Now, right now, we do have some heat advisories as well as actually a thunderstorm warning. That thunderstorm warning is in Pike County, and it will go until 6:15 this evening. We'll zoom in on that storm for you here in just a second and show you exactly how strong it is and in the regions where these storms are strong. They're very isolated at this point, but there are more storms on the way. And so we will be tracking those throughout the rest of this evening. Now, coming up in my full weathercast, we'll take a look back at exactly what happened and also a look ahead. That's coming up just around the corner.
And if you ventured out today, you could miss the cars at a gridlock alongside gas stations really everywhere. Eyewitness News reporter Kristen Keeling is live on Washington Street, where the chaos is still unfolding. Kristen, what's the latest?
Kelly, that's right. As you can see behind me, people are still here patiently waiting to pull up to a pump and get some gas. Now, this jam started early this morning, and it's gotten so bad that traffic has backed up all the way to Greenbrier Street. Now, surprisingly, people tell us this is actually a necessity, and it's worth the wait.
A run on gas.
One way or another, you're going to need gas.
If you didn't fill up yesterday, you got to wait in lines today.
And the waiting game started early, with cars lining up shortly after the storm.
Right now, 30 minutes right now to get gas.
Cars were at a gridlock and snaking along in Alum Creek, Route 119, Washington Street in Charleston, and at other gas stations throughout the state.
I'm down to 1 mile left on my thing, so better get some gas on.
The backup was caused by the storm, with people needing gas to get home, and a lot of people out getting gas for generators. But they had to wait because only a handful of stations were able to provide it. Because if the stations don't have power, then the pumps don't work.
You just did all your grocery shopping and not going to have power for a few days. You got to do what you can to save it.
People in Alum Creek weren't so lucky. By 12:30, the Sunoco was forced to close because they ran out of gas. We're told their gas provider didn't have power to provide extra fuel, so they had to close up.
It's a ripple effect. So until the power starts to come on, people are going to have what gas they have, and they're probably not going to be able to get any more.
And for people like Charlene Pridemore, waiting is worth it. She says if she didn't have gas for her generator at home, she and her husband would be left in the dark in the extreme heat.
The food would be going bad, and where he's has problems breathing, he wouldn't have anything to cool him down.
Desperate times calling for desperate measures. And for some, it was almost a trip back in time.
It kind of reminds me when I was in high school in 1974 with the oil embargo.
It was still pretty long, you know. I thought it was back in the gas crisis.
Now, we're told the Welcome Center near White Sulphur Springs near I-64 has no power, and they're being forced to turn people away. But Callie, they're really not sure where to turn people because the outages are so widespread. Live in Charleston, Kristen Keeling, Eyewitness News.
All right, thanks, Kristen. Well, coming up, major damage on the greens of the Greenbrier, how it will affect the Open, coming up in sports.